everyone, it's Sarah, and today I wanted to go ahead and give you a video on the EPIK application process. So yeah, because I know that these were things I looked for when I was like looking into applying for EPIK and stuff like that. So, you know, why don't I just make one to help you out? Kind of. So basically what I'm gonna do in this video is kind of give you, this is what happens at stage 1, 2, 3, whatever, and kind of give you a rough timeline that I went through, and will be basically the same for people in the spring. In the fall, it's different, and I didn't apply for the fall, so anyway, you should like this video if you want to know more about EPIK stuff and whatnot. So yeah, alrighty. So for me, the spring 2018 applications opened on August 1st. So I think that's basically what it's going to be for 2019 spring, and I think it's been like that for whenever the spring. It's going to be August 1 is when you can submit everything. They do go ahead and put the application up, I think it was 2 weeks prior to August 1st. They did put out like, here's the application. That way if you wanted to like on August 1st, you know, turn that bad boy in, you could. So like for me, as soon as they put the application out there, I actually did go ahead and start filling it out, so I had a fair amount of time to kind of like be like, what sounds good, kind of Google things to where like, because for instance, there were some things where I was like, this is a good lesson idea, but then I'd be like, maybe it's not, maybe it's overdone, so I would kind of Google things about that. And then of course you can submit the application anytime between August 1st up until like January or something like that. I think that the end date is for the application submittal is a little different depending on how their numbers. So for I think my intake, like it was like in January people were still applying and I was like shocked. So on August 14th is when I actually submitted my application related like materials for the lesson plan, and what else was it? Oh, and my 2 letters of recommendations. That was like one of my main holdups, was one of my letters of recommendation I just didn't have yet. So you do have to have application, any materials related to your lesson, and then 2 letters of recommendation, those 3 things. And then you will get a confirmation email being like, hi, we received your application, thank you, blah blah blah. I think you'll get it within a day or 2. I got mine the following day, and that's what they said. They're like, thanks for submitting your application. We will be processing them in September. So yeah, don't expect to hear anything from us until then, but until then you can look at this required documents thing to go ahead and get ahead type thing. And I was like, I already know what I need, because I've been looking it up for like 2 to 3 years. I already knew what was going on. And then sometime in September, if you submitted things in August anyway, sometime in September you will get an email that's like, oh, congrats, woohoo! You can now interview. That's what should happen with me. That did not happen. I didn't get an email. So like I went through like a lot of emotions in September and October being like, wow, they must really hate me, but at the same time, if they don't want you, they're supposed to email you rejecting you at any part in the process. They're supposed to say like, no. But I never got that, and I never got a like yes, so I didn't know what was happening, and I was trying to be really patient because I know on the Facebook page they'd be like, oh well, the processing time for everyone's application is different, which makes sense, cool, I get it, you know, but at the same time I was like, I submitted it so long ago. Where I got worried was when there started being new people in like our Facebook group that literally submitted it like 2 months after me, and then they heard back like 2-3 days later and they got an interview, and I was like, there's no way. So I actually had to email the EPIK coordinator, like email they have, and be like, hi, so I haven't heard anything about the interview, when can I expect to hear about it? And then I got a reply, I think it was within 24 hours, being like, oh, like we sent one out, but I guess it got lost in the email world, whatever, and we'll send a new one. And so they sent me a new one, like same thing within a couple of hours, that, you know, basically said like, oh, congrats, Sarah, you can now sign up to take an interview time slot. So that's the next step, is interviewing. You get an email for the interview time slot invitation, and then you go in and you select like a date and a time you want to interview. For me, this was like in November, because I didn't like get anything until October 31st. So I made mine. I wanted to give myself a few days to really like kind of get in a better headspace because I was already a little ticked off and a little emotional. So I was like, we need to kind of distance myself. So I made it for, what was it? September 6th? No, November 6th. I made it for November 6th and it was in the AM. Like when I say it was in the AM, I don't mean it was like 8 AM. I mean it was 12:10 AM, which isn't like an abnormal time for me to be up, but it's abnormal within the regard like I had a full face of makeup on, I had like my nice camera lighting on that I had back in the States, and I was like ready to go. But yeah, so I think in general, if you're in Canada or the US, most of your interview times are going to be in the late evening to like early AM hours. So just like keep that in mind, because I felt like they kind of wanted most of their interviews to be either when it wouldn't be feasible for like Americans and Canadians to do it because they'd be working or something, or it would be like in the wee hours, you know what I mean? Then after the interview, you're going to get an email that says whether or not you were rejected or if you passed. So I got my email, I think it was in like within like 3 or 4 hours, because it was like the end of their day, so they were getting it going. So I got mine 3 or 4 hours after my interview saying like, oh, you passed. Ooh. So in the email, if you pass, they go ahead and tell you like, hey, we need these specific required documents. We need you to send them all over. So it's everything that was previously told to you that you would need. They now need you to physically mail it to them, like the originals and the photocopies, unless it's a diploma, because you don't send your original diploma. Don't do that. I don't know why so many people ask, because it's literally, they literally say not to do that. But so many people still ask. So I got my acceptance on the 6th of November, and I didn't send everything until the 21st of November. So, you know, they want you to get done as soon as possible, and I think it is always better to do it quickly. But for me, I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm still in the month of November. I feel like I'm fine timeline-wise, so that's why I didn't feel extremely pressured about it. But yeah, and then I sent it the 21st, they received it on the 26th, and then they processed everything on the 27th. And then after they process everything, they will go ahead, well, they'll send you an email being like, yo, we got it and we processed it. And then they will go ahead and send it out to schools / like MOEs and POEs. So they will send them out, and then it is kind of out of their hands in a way, it feels like. It's like all about how you look on paper. So as well as like in your little photo you have to send. So yeah, also make sure your photos that you get sent, like that are on your application and the extra copies, make sure those are good. Okay, like even if you have to do it yourself and then go print them, like, which is actually what I did is I took them with my nice lighting and then I edited them and then I had them printed because I wanted to make sure that I looked my best. And in Korea, like, looking your best is like expected, okay? And people do that here all the time. Like, if you get a photo taken here, they're gonna Photoshop it. They're not even gonna ask, okay? They're gonna do it because that's literally what everyone does. Like, my coworkers on their work badges, they're all Photoshopped. They don't look like that. So at this point, once they've sent out your application and your resume and all of that to the schools, it's gonna feel like a big waiting game again. Which the EPIK process is a big waiting game in a lot of areas. It's like very roller coaster, right? So, but you need to talk to your coordinator. I can't stress enough how important it is to actually make sure you're communicating with your coordinator. I'm not saying like, you know, be on the daily like, oh, how's it going, man? Just wanted to hear back. Do you know my placement? Don't do that. But like, you know, like if you have questions or concerns or issues, let them know. Like, it is their job to like communicate with you and to help you through this. So like, talk to them, okay? Talk to them. You know, don't pester them every day, but like if you have a question, let them know. Don't just sit there and be like, I don't know, I guess I'll never know. Like, just send an email. I remember people getting placements beginning the kind of middle of December to maybe a little early of December. People got placements, and I will say it's very disheartening. People are getting placements and you day after day are like checking your email all the time and you're like, where's my placement? Especially when it ends up being people that you know submitted things later than you and you're like, what's this? Like, so it can be disheartening, but like, it's okay. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. But just know you'll be okay. If you have problems, or if you know, just want to every now and then, every few days, maybe ask your coordinator, like, oh, how's, like, placements, like, you know, when do you think I'll hear about it? You can ask them, just don't do it every day. But yeah, I think most people in my intake kind of got their placements like December 15th through the 25th, so like that like 10-day range I feel like is when most people heard back. I heard back on December 29th, so which is great. And I also know several people who heard back later. Some of my friends heard back like early January, like January 4th, 5th, 6th, things like that. And then I also know people who, you know, didn't get a placement until like February 1st. So once you get your placement, you're gonna be sent like an email like, whoa, congrats, whatever, and then they're gonna ask you for some final confirmation of details like your address, your phone number, your full name, and that's just to make sure they send your contract draft and your NOA, notice of appointment, to the right address and person, and also that it, what's that word? Whatever. Is it notates? Whatever. That it actually has the correct person listed and they like, don't misspell something crazily, things like that. Or like, you know, they don't put like Bob, but your name's Larry. Like, so yeah, things like that. They will send you an email about that. And then I got my like NOA and my contract draft like super quick. I mean, like they sent it quick. Like, I mean, like, I think they told me about it like Sunday night, which was like their Monday, and then I think I got it like Tuesday. Like, it was really quick. So that was great. Once you have your contract and your NOA and you've messed with that, you now have to take it or send it. So you either have to take it personally or you have to mail it to the consulate. Depending on where you live, it'll be easier to go in. For me, I lived in Dallas and we have one just north of Dallas, which was like super easy. So like all I did is I just like picked a morning. I went up there when they opened and I sat there for a couple of minutes. I then gave them all of this. I gave them the fee for the visa, and then they basically just verified that I'm Sarah and stuff like that, and went through my contract to make sure I signed it and to make sure it was valid and not like some fake thing and stuff like that. And then they like take your passport, they take everything, and they give you like a receipt, and they say, you know, come back on blah 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 date. So I did mine. I took mine in on a Tuesday, and then I got it back on Friday. It took like no time. And when I went to get it, like literally, I didn't even have to get like a number or anything. They like saw me because I was literally the only non-Korean in there. They saw me and were like, ah, oh, come on. And they just like gave it to me. They gave me all of my stuff back, and then they went through the visa with me to make sure it was correct. And they're like, all right, bye. And that's how easy it was. I do know if you have to mail it in, it will take longer if you mail it. It will take longer. I'm not saying it's going to take like a month, but it will take longer. So if you can go in person, if you have the ability to do that, whether, you know, time with work or time just depending on location, if you can go in, it is easier. Next thing you have is some pre-orientation online training. We got these like on January 15th, 16th, like the middle of January. We got some info about some orientation, the pre-orientation training hours. I think it was like 15 hours. They were super easy. It was boring, but it was super easy, and you just have like little like knowledge checks at the end of each little unit. So you had to pay attention to an extent. Some of it was self-explanatory, but you just had to go through that. Maybe it was 8 hours. I don't know how long it was anymore. But you had to go through that, and then once you go through that, you finish that, you just print off the certificate that shows that you completed it, because you will need it at orientation. And then finally, you will need to tell your EPIK coordinator when you are arriving in Korea. So they need to know the airport you're going into, they need to know your flight number, the final flight number. So if you have connections like Dallas to LAX, they don't need to know that. They just need to know like LAX to Seoul, they need to know that. But so they need to know airport, they need to know flight number, they need to know the time and the date. And they need to know all this so they can like make sure that you're picked up, basically. You'll have to get there on a specific day, like before a specific day. So yeah. they will need to know all this information. Yeah, that is kind of like the EPIK application process and timeline overview from August to January/February. Obviously, flying in is in February. But yeah, that's everything. I would say where you're going to spend the most time is actually going to be with required documents. A lot of those can be time consuming. So, but if you want to see more about like required documents, then let me know and I'll do a video on that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and I will see you in the next video.